What's up, guys? Coming to you from the communist state of New York. This is Modern Munitions. I'm your host, Jeff. We're diving into another series, another episode of our Shit Hits the Fan series. Today, we're going to cover the 5 most valuable items that you'll be able to trade in a shit hits the fan or an emergency situation. Guys, the items we're going to cover is going to be medical supplies, food, water filtration, guns and ammo, and also one thing that we can't show on here, which is alcohol and tobacco. At the end, we'll follow it up with one bonus item. But guys, with that being said, we're going to dive into this. I do have a lot of these items already in my bug out bag. Once again, I'll put a link in the description to that video. But guys, let's start off with the first thing, and that's going to be water filtration. Now, let me also make a clarification. I have no affiliation with any of these companies. I'll always recommend stuff that I've used in the past, that I've had, and not just bought and coming on here to do a commercial. So, when it comes to water filtration, there's multiple different kinds. Let's start off with the Life Straw. This is a very, as you can see, what I'm going to show you is easy to store in a backpack, whatever it is. So if you're traveling, once again, think of all of these items today as things you can trade. You should already have everything I'm going to show you guys for yourself or for your own families. It doesn't hurt to have surplus, like I said, when it comes to trading. Anyway, Life Straw. Very simple, very easy to pack up. The thing with the Life Straw is you're going to need to be around a water source to use this. Another thing is it's minimum amount of use of water, right? You're not drinking like liters or buckets or anything else with this. This is great for people that are on the go, might not have a way to carry water, and are going to be near streams or rivers and things like that, maybe in the woods, so this would come in handy. You know, another thing, when you think about emergency situations, think about the movie Mad Max, right? And I'm not saying it's going to be like Mad Max, but if you remember, I think it was Beyond Thunderdome, he's walking through Bartertown, and they were selling things of water, right? So, guys, in an emergency situation, there might be people out there selling buckets of, maybe it's contaminated water, but it's still water, and you can take advantage of that if you have something like this. Moving on, this is what I really recommend. Number one, for your own personal use, but is from a company called Ketadine. They sell a water filtration, and basically what you do, you screw this on a collapsible water bottle. And give me 1 second, guys, let me show you that. All right, guys, so I had one in my bug out bag, but basically, I've showed this before, but this is called the Ketadine. That's the company right there. But basically, the cool thing about this, guys, and I spoke about this in my other video, you can easily scoop up water with this. Easy screw-on filter, no hassle, no nothing. You can drink out of this, or you can fill it up and squeeze it into a bigger, a bigger water storage, whatever it might be, right? There's those collapsible things, whatever. Remember, this is about trading. Something like this, once again, you could put it in your backpack. Great amount of value, especially with the amount of gallons that you can filter with this. So, guys, keep that in mind. There's one other water filtration that I have that I want to show. Once again, very collapsible, very inexpensive. This is made by a company called Sawyer. Same exact thing almost as the other, but this is not as easy to fill up if you're near a river or whatever it might be. You can screw this on, easily sip. It's not too big, easy to carry. That's the theme of a lot of these items. Now, guys, there's other things out there, and I'm not sure if this is one of them, but that you can get just the filter like this, right? You might not need a bag, because a lot of these filters can just screw on the top of existing water bottles. So keep that in mind, guys. What I'm showing today is just examples of things to have, not necessarily that you have to have these brands. Moving on, so we just covered water filtration. Let's move over to food, and there's different kinds of food. So You have individual packets of freeze-dried food. Mountain House, very easy. You just add water, you mix it. I actually did a taste test to one of these. I think, it was the same thing, Pasta Primavera, I believe. Pretty good for what it is for emergency food. There's other companies that have breakfast things like oatmeal and things like that. So once again, guys, with the theme of being able to pack these up, have some extra things to use as trade on the move, very easy to store. Now, when we speak about these emergency situations, you're not always going to be on the move, right? So it's good to have a surplus of items, possibly that you're going to be bugging in for, and that you're going to want to share or trade or barter within your community. Speaking of that, you have things like this from companies like My Patriot Supply. This is a 4-week food supply, and you can see it comes with a lot of different items. Now, the big thing with this, guys, 25-year shelf life. This is just one bucket. It came with 2 different buckets, and if you look at this, this is more of the desserts, and it actually says bucket 2, and more of the other types of things. The other bucket is the actual meals, the entrees, and whatever. But the cool thing about this, it averages 2,000 calories per day per person. And if you're really talking about value, right, and you live in a community, like I've said in some of my other episodes, you want to have community, you want to have other people besides you and your family, if possible, during an emergency situation. What not of better value to be able to give someone a 4-week supply of food for them and their family, right? Maybe you don't have water filtration. Maybe you don't have some of the medical stuff we're going to get into. Maybe you just need an extra hand around for things like securing the perimeter. So super valuable for something that comes in a very small size, like 2 buckets, guys. I mean, just throw this in the back of a closet. You know, maybe you do have room in a vehicle and you just throw them in the back seat. And like I said, make sure you have enough already, the first priorities that you have for you and your family. But when it comes to trading and things like that, very, very easy item to pick up and really not that expensive. And there's lots of different brands of that, right? There are a lot of other companies that do that, whether it's Mountain House or some of the other companies. Now, another thing that I did not bring today, but when it comes to emergency food, is canned goods, obviously, right? So anytime you're in a supermarket, you see those sales, whether it's tuna fish, corn, things like cranberry sauce. Look at things with long shelf life. Moving on to medical supplies, guys, and this falls in different categories. Almost like with food where you have freeze-dried, you have canned goods, water filtration. You can have water filtration for large capacities and you could have it for small capacities. When it comes to meds, you know, think about, once again, emergencies. You're not going to be able to get to a hospital. Maybe a hospital's overrun. Maybe CVS has been looted, Dwayne Reed, whatever it might be, right? We've seen civil unrest in a lot of these places either shut down or looted. But with medical, there's basic medical supplies, and both of these are going to be valuable when someone needs it. Things like Band-Aids, Benadryl, water purification tablets, gloves, you know, basic stuff you would get in any medical kit. Maybe some Benadryl for allergies, you know, people's kids, whatever it might be. Things of chapstick. So think about basic over-the-counter medical. Always good to have extra stuff of this on hand. People are going to want it if they can't get their hands on it. Now diving up to more advanced medical, this is more of a trauma kit. Shit hits the fan situation. Unfortunately, there might be some, you know, there might be some chaos, shootings. You never know whatever it might be. So if you have an extra trauma kit, that's great. Huge value when it comes to trading something like this. You don't necessarily have to have a whole trauma kit. Maybe you just have one piece of it, right? If you look at this, this is a trauma pack. It's called Quick Clot, Stop the Bleeding. It has all of these items on the back, and I'll read off a few of them, but it has gauze, it has trauma pads, it has gloves, duct tape, triangular bandages, sterile gauze dressing, different sizes, conforming gauze bandage, antiseptic wipes, a resealable bag, and a trauma response instructions. So guys, just this little piece of this kit is going to be of huge value. When you look at other things, you know, unfortunately, like I said, there might be some crazy shit going on. Maybe you want an emergency bandage, an Israeli bandage to pack wounds. Always highly recommend a tourniquet. You know, it's great to have this stuff, and we'll get into this as I told you about that bonus item. But knowing how to use these items should be something you consistently practice. And I'll be honest, I need to do a better job of it myself. Compressed gauze. This is going to be huge. You know, medical scissors. This is an airway. It should create an airway for breathing. I'm going to be honest, guys, I do not know how to use this. I'm going to bring that up later in the video. Educating myself as I go, just like a lot of you guys watching this video. Unfortunately, once again, if it comes to shootings, you're going to want entry and exit wounds for chest. Hyphen vent. This is specifically for chest wounds. Chest wounds have to be treated differently than other wounds on the body. So guys, when it comes to medical supplies, keep that in mind. You got the basics, and then you got your trauma kit. Once again, make sure you have for you and your family before you start giving away shit that you might need. The other thing we're going to get into is ammo and firearms. Guys, I know a lot of people are talking about how high the gold prices are and silver and everything else, but when it comes to a real emergency, you're not going to be carrying around bars of gold and coins and all of this other shit, right? This is going to be your most valuable, precious metal right here. And that's ammunition. That's brass. When we talk about ammunition, I'm a big 10mm fan, guys. You know that. You watch this channel. However, I know that that's not going to be the most accessible ammunition in an emergency situation. So personally, I think these are going to be the 4 things to stock up on that most folks are going to have at least one of. Going to lead the pack with 2 of them, 9mm and either 223 or 5.56. Not everyone can shoot 5.56 out of their ARs if they're chambered in 223. You got to have a specific barrel, and you got to make sure your barrel can shoot 5.56. So 223 might be more valuable than 5.56 in a shit hits the fan situation. The 2 other calibers are going to be 22, long rifle. A lot of folks have their Ruger 1022s for small game and other things like that. And then obviously 12 gauge. I think 12 gauge is going to be a very big, you know, shotguns, home defense. Everyone's going to have a shotgun for the most part, or at least a handgun or one of the other things that I mentioned. All right, guys, so that's the 4 calibers that I would recommend when it comes to having ammunition to trade in a SHTF situation. Now, when it comes to quantity, right, I would always separate. There's going to be risks involved with all of these items. You always want to make sure anytime you're trading or bartering, you're doing it in a way that you're confident you're not going to get taken advantage of. I do want to bring that up, especially when it comes to ammunition. So start, I would say, with small quantities, right? 20 rounds. I wouldn't go any more than 50 rounds in an initial bartering situation, because the reality is, guys, you're not going to be out there in shootouts firing thousands of rounds. I mean, if that's the case, you're in way worse than a fucking situation than you need to be in, and I highly doubt any of this shit's going to help you if that's the case. But the other thing we're going to talk about now is having an extra gun to trade in an emergency, right? It can't hurt. Think of something that's inexpensive but very reliable, right? Think of things like a Glock 19, a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. These are guns that you can get right around that sub $500, maybe even High Point, right? Or Taurus. You might not even need a Glock. The reason I say Glock is, in Smith & Wesson, there's lots of parts out there. There's lots of backup magazines. You know, maybe you're getting that way now with Taurus and High Point anyway. So if you have the extra money, or you can, an extra firearm, you know, you can trade that maybe for, you know, all of this stuff if it came down to it. Last but not least, when it comes to the 5 items, and then we'll get to the bonus item, alcohol and tobacco, guys. You know, I used to smoke cigarettes. It'll be 2 years this October since I quit. I highly don't recommend you store any of this stuff if you used to have a drinking problem or a smoking problem, unless you're confident you're not going to go back to that shit. Me personally, you know, I can't stand the smell of cigarettes now, so I have no problem picking up a carton of cigarettes, maybe store it somewhere for an emergency and trade a pack, or even a few cigarettes, not a pack, in a stressful environment. People that have these addictions, and alcohol is a little bit different. You have addictions, but you also have, you know, can also be used as a disinfectant. But cigarettes and whatever, when people are in a very stressful situation and they don't have a cigarette or something else, it could affect the way that they operate. It could affect their mentality. So having these items might even be more valuable than some of the things that some of the things you think are most valuable are. So keep that in mind. Which brings us to alcohol real quick. You know, whiskey, things like that, it can't hurt. You know, a lot of people are going to look at alcohol as a very valuable item as well, especially when it comes to some of the medical stuff. Maybe you're not going to be carrying things like peroxide, rubbing alcohol, and maybe an alcohol with a strong enough proof will actually help disinfect a wound or things like that. So guys, really about to wrap it up. The last thing, which was really more of a bonus item, is a skill set. I talked about earlier, I have some things in my trauma kit I don't know how to use. There's going to be, you know, could be you're a tinkerer, right? You know how to fix engines, you know how to fix and take things apart, or you kind of like invent little things maybe. So if you have good enough skill sets, guys, whether it's medical, self-defense, like I said, maybe you tinker around with stuff, you can build stuff. Those, you know, those skills are invaluable. So that's something really that nobody can take away from you, and you can trade that and maybe do things for somebody, and they can, you know, give you an item. So, guys, those are the 5 things I wanted to cover that I think are going to be the most valuable in an SHTF situation or any emergency situation. And not only that, but these are things that you should have laying around the house anyway. Could be a hurricane, it could be something else. It doesn't have to be total fucking chaos and civil unrest, that you should have these items laying around. So guys, like I said, we covered food, we covered medical, covered guns and ammo, alcohol and tobacco, water filtration, and that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. We're going to do a lot more of these, especially in this election year. Like I said, things are getting crazy, not only domestically, but globally. And with that being said, guys, stay safe, stay strapped, hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and see you soon.